right, hello, welcome to the Artificially Intelligent Podcast. I am Nathan, a white honky cracker comedian in the Midwest. With me as always is Barrett Antar Goodwin, musician, Black Afro-American person of color musician in Philadelphia. No, wait, that's not, you're in South Carolina right now. Wow, is that good for a Black person to go to South Carolina?
Oh, I'm technically in North Carolina now.
Oh.
And we were in South Carolina yesterday. Well, this morning. We drove back up. We're flying out tomorrow. But
is North Carolina better or worse than South Carolina for people with your tan?
Here's what I'll say. Everybody that I've met has been amazing. I hung out with the mayor of South Carolina, or the place, whatever. We're in Port Royal.
Okay.
So the mayor of Port Royal, some of the council people were there, and they were super cool. They were amazing people. Everybody we met was great.
Oh, good.
Really. So,
and we've got someone with us, my friend Richard Cornish. We met at the local swimming pool. He had a tiny little baby. I had a tiny little baby, and we just put the two little tiny babies together and said, work it out. And yeah, that's how we met, is just people with babies becoming friends.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I asked Richard to come on and talk to us because whenever Barrett and I talk, we could be talking about pencils and somehow it would turn into us talking about race and the inherent racism involved with pencils. And you kind of know this because you've commented on a couple of our videos, and you have incredible life experience, having been a member of the military and spent a lot of time outside of America. And I want to start with, you just spent 18 months in Thailand because you were kind of partially trapped there because of COVID, but you said something that made me laugh that was all too accurate. I said, well, they had to open up the airlines at some point and you could have come back, but what made you stay? And I loved your answer.
I said, when people started shooting people behind masks and America started American, and I was like, nah, I'll wait it out. I will wait it out.
And now we're fighting the vaccinations. Now we're like, oh, we could put an end to the masks and to the disease, but nope, certain people won't get a vaccination because...
Listen, can I say something real quick?
Absolutely. That's why you're here, to say a lot of things.
This is so ridiculous, right? They have a mask mandate that applies to all public buildings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Except for public schools. What is that? What is that?
That is our governor, Barrett, is our governor signed into law. Our governor signed two scholastic laws this past year. One was that our school system could not have a mask mandate, and we don't really have a strict dress code. So I know they did that in Texas where they said, oh, we're just going to make a mask a part of the dress code. And then number two, the second thing she signed into date was every student now has to say the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of the day, which again, I don't give a fuck. I said it as a kid. But when it comes down to the fact that this is what our legislators are focusing on, we have a pandemic, we have unemployment problems, we have race problems, we have we have all these problems. But hey, let's take the time to make sure the kids stand and say one nation under God. Is like, Richard's right. This is what the fuck we're focused on.
It's really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. Like I said, man, I was like, so let me get this straight. I can't go into City Hall. I can't go see my legislator without a mask on. But you're going to make sure that people can just be around my kids. All I'm asking for is consistency. That's it. I'm not asking for a lot.
Yeah.
Just some consistency.
Well,
every public place, come on.
Look at it another, like you said, every public place. Look at it another way. You said federal buildings. So yeah, you have to put on a mask to go talk to your legislator, but wander and then into McDonald's and you can get diabetes and COVID, in either order.
That's true.
Yeah,
that is very true.
So how is Thailand treating the epidemic? Is the audit, do they have people, I'm not going to wear a mask? Do they have like no vaccine for me? Is it even if it does exist, it is a smaller part of the population?
No, it's just a small minority.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like it was more of, because obviously here it's political.
Right.
In Asia, they've dealt with this before. So once, you know, the masks came out, they were like, oh yeah, we remember that. Put on a mask, go ahead and, you know, live life the best to their ability. They were kind of upset with the country being closed more so than wearing a mask, because now you're messing with people's money. But the difference between America and like other regions, I feel like America is different from Americans, right? Like America is the company, right? America, the business. Americans, the people, are separated, like a stark separation between the two. So
that's fascinating. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and
keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to encourage more. That was keep going.
In Asia, it's not like that, you know. It's like, or in Thailand, for example, that's what I can speak on. While I was there, it was always like Thailand, the country was taking care of Thai people. So whenever they closed everything, they locked your bills in, like they locked your electric and all of that stuff, so that you would pay the same amount next month that you paid last month, even though you're home. They made sure that you can't like price gouge. They made sure like food and necessities stay the same. Bleach never hit $10, stuff like that. You know, like I said, like America will just show you that the fabric is not really there. That's another thing. The Pledge of Allegiance, are you saying it for the sake of just saying words? Or is it like justice for all type of stuff? Whenever you have these discussions, when it comes to the things that are the actual words that go along with it, it's kind of skimmed over. It's just like going through the motions. So I don't know.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but the instant you said it, it made me think of the last time I set foot in a church, and it was I was doing a favor for the girl I was dating. We were at her grandmother's house, and you need to go to Christmas Mass, and I hadn't been to church in forever, and I was struck by how they say, they call them the sheep or the flock. And that's literally what I got, is these people standing in church like, bah, bah, without really having any emotion or sense of love behind the words. It was just like, this is what we do. We show up, we talk about Jesus. But as I looked around, there was no passion. It was, the best way to describe it is it was a stark 180 from the James Brown scene in the Blues Brothers. There was no emotion, there was no passion. But yeah, you're right. When it comes to the Pledge of Allegiance, it seems just sort of like I said, a way of like the not even indoctrination.
It's really weird, dude. Because if you look at it, like, the same people who are talking about they want the Pledge of Allegiance said are the same people who are waving Confederate flags. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Goddamn true.
What are you doing? Yeah. Like, which side are you on here? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. America has a lot of ingrained issues. Like I said, like I tell people, as a Black guy, I get asked a lot of questions about like America and being, you know, what it's like over here.
I ask you what the fuck you're doing in Iowa. That's a question I always ask you.
I go out there to South Carolina or North Carolina. But again, that brings me to my other topic, right? Like, there's a lot of blood in the soil. There's a lot of blood in the soil. It makes things hard to come across. There are things that are ingrained in just the ground itself that are subtle. It's there. The good thing about South Carolina and North Carolina is that if people are racist, it's up front. You already know.
There's no hiding how they feel. And I appreciate that. I will say this, you know, I play in a blues rock band. It's like blues rock Americana, essentially. And so I play a lot of places where I am the only Black person or one of very few, even just people of color in the room, right? Because of the kind of rooms we play.
Well, which is funny because considering it's blues, which was born of the Black experience by Black people,
Right.
you know, the original FUBU
Yeah.
for Black people by Black people. And
Yeah, pretty much.
and now, as you say,
Yeah.
you're in a blues band playing for white people.
Well, I mean, it's blues rock Americana, but yeah, it is mostly when we play big festivals, it's not like that. But when we play clubs, it's pretty much like that, you know. And I will say that I've met the nicest people, right? I haven't had any issues with anybody. I was actually shocked because being up from up north, I feel like we have a perception of the rest of the world. You know, like when they talk about liberal elites and stuff, you know what I mean? They mean the coasts, the
Yeah.
people on the coast. That's what they mean. New York and California.
New York, California.
That's what they mean. That's really what they mean. And those are the two places that I've traveled to a bit, right? So like not LA a lot, but you know, like I spend a lot of time in New York and it's true. Like we have an impression of the world that isn't accurate, right? So that being said, I wonder, I'm gonna ask Richard, when you were in the military and you really got to see the inner workings of how the military works and how the spending is, like that's I think where you can really understand America the corporation. You know what I mean? Because that's what the military is ultimately, is like a huge American corporation. I'm not saying they don't protect us, keep us safe and aren't important, but it is very much like that, right? When
Yes.
you were out there versus here, people always say, well, racism is really bad everywhere. People treat you bad everywhere, right? So did you find that to be true?
I don't know, man. America got a little zest on it. They got a little they put it on there for you. It's a different kind of
Oh,
racism,
that's all
right? Like I've been other places. Okay, so as far as the military, the corporation goes, right? You know, you got to protect your interests and do these type of things. That's just part of, you know, the monopoly board that you're playing. Okay, you got to do certain things. I don't have an issue with that. I think the issue that I have more so with that is that these victories, these riches that you come across in battle don't translate to things for the people in the country that are doing that, you know?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we make
Explain.
the belt around Washington rich, the people that run the defense manufacturing and the
Right. Like, see, China does it a little bit different, right? So China, at the end of the day, they're making billionaires back home all the time, because at the end of the day, China is still representing the Chinese. So even if like they are coming up, they are still spreading it to the Chinese people. They have racism too. There are minorities there too. They don't like Black people necessarily over there either. They don't really like anybody over there.
Well,
But
let me interrupt really quickly. I apologize. One thing Barrett and I talk about when it comes to worldwide racism is because we're America, we tend to think it's white, Black. But when it gets to other sections of the world, it's like, and I point this out, and I'm just speaking on my ass, like, oh, the Koreans hate the Japanese hate the Chinese, the you know, you take any country in Africa that was invented by the West, and you have two different tribes that are both Black but hate each other, but are in, you know, it's not always, when we say racism, it's not just like, oh, Black people travel the world and get treated like shit because they're Black. It's different shades of racism depending on where you are. And like you just pointed out, yeah, the Chinese, they're very insular. And
I mean, I think this was his point about it's in the soil, right? Like
yeah,
here, what we have is
well, here it is
we
white,
have,
Black. Yeah.
well, we have racism, but what we really have here is a caste system, right? We have an unspoken system in which one group of people are trained to think one way and another group of people are trained to think another way. And we have a lot of innate assumptions that have nothing to do with whether or not we like or dislike each other. Right. And so this is where the problem comes in, because racism is like, you know, fuck you, cracker, fuck you, nigger, shit like that. Right. That's racism. But caste is you and I are sitting in a room and we're pitching ideas and we're a team of writers and they ask you all the questions. Right. It's not racist. because they're not doing it on purpose, because they don't actually think they're even doing it, and they wouldn't even think of it as racism. They have black friends, they have all
Well,
kinds
it
of stuff,
depends
'cause
on the
it's
show.
not
Are we
actually
writing
racism.
for Roseanne or
Right.
In Living Color?
Look at you.
I
Look at
mean,
you.
or Martin,
My
because then they're not
God.
asking me.
My God. You're lucky I'm not there to smack you.
It's because you know I make a good point.
You do. But you know what I mean, right? Like there's like, here's what I'll say about the caste system. I think the reason why white people don't think racism exists or have issues understanding it is because the way that black people were trained for years and years and years and years and years is no matter what was going on, it was okay. Right? Like you weren't allowed to complain if somebody was getting hung, if they were beating someone in front of you.
You have never
weren't
in
allowed
the
to
history of
ever-
America been allowed to complain as a black person, right?
Ever, right? Like it just wasn't a thing, right? Like they could
Complain if you
snatch
want.
you.
You still complain, but
Right, but it wasn't like, like they steal your children from you, and if like they had the term Dreptomania. It's a psychological condition, and it's basically the desire to be free when you're a slave, right? And it was a word that was made up because they thought that black people were crazy because they wanted to escape slavery. They were like, why would you, there was legitimate belief that we should and would be happy in those conditions. And so what is born out of that isn't necessarily racism. It's it's not hatred.
It's a
just
standard.
Right. It's a belief that we are one way and you are another way, and only through the benevolence of this are we allowed. And it's not even like the benevolence. It's just but partially, I've heard white people say that.
I think that there's a disconnect with time. I don't think the human brain really understands time, right? Like we just have a disconnect. Civil rights movement was in the 60s.
Yeah.
In the 60s. That's not that long ago. My mom was born in the 40s. She's downstairs right now.
Right.
Yeah. We're talking a generation, not eons.
Right. And the generation is still here. They're still here. There's people from World War II still here. Things are happening.
I was just going to say, not to take it away from race, but you'd say we don't understand time. That explains Afghanistan. I mean, everyone's like, how could it fall after 20 years? It's because the Taliban was just like, yeah, we got this. Don't worry. You can hang out here. And, all they did was wait it out, because when it comes to the Middle East,
where else were they going?
I know. Well, I say when it comes to the Middle East, we're talking centuries of this is they just sit back and wait. We think 20 years we've created a new country, and they're just like, no, this goes back. These tribes go back forever, since the cradle of life, and they're willing to wait, and that's all they did. But yeah, you're right. We have no concept of time.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. That was what I thought of.
Look, I want to just go ahead and put this disclaimer out there, right? I do not represent the United States military in any capacity at all. This is just me speaking as me. I don't represent all of black people or anything like that.
No, Barrett does. That's what we tell every week, is that Barrett represents all of black people.
Just my personal opinion, right? I just want to put that out there.
Sure.
But that being said, right? The whole purpose of all of these things doesn't make any sense at all. If you just follow it around, it's nonsensical. Somebody came up to me and they were talking about how could they do this with Afghanistan? And I was like, bro, you don't care. He was like, I care. I say, look, that's manufactured. You don't really care. You don't really care. Why are we there? What's the purpose? For what? How did it start? If you look back 20 years ago, I remember I just joined the military. September 11th happened. I was in the military all of 2 months.
Yeah, you're thinking I got a GI Bill, I'm going to college. Nope, you're going to war, son.
Look, I just had got to my first duty station, and I want to say August, and then September 11th of 2001, everything changed, right? First, we were going in Iraq. Then they found the guy in Pakistan. Now we're in Afghanistan. How did this happen? Then you've been there 20 years. And I don't know, man. Like I said, I always find it funny because I'm always like, there's always something going on in the background. You gotta look beyond the smoke and mirrors on a lot of things. You know, like this concern for the Afghani people. No, these are the same people who don't care about the kids in school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You mean to tell me that you care about the Afghani people getting on a plane, but you are upset about a mask?
Let me ask you a pointed question then. What? Maybe the answer is your mom, family. What brings you back here? I mean, you have different places to go, different places you live. What brings you home? And or will you ever move away and stay away and say, just done?
God willing, man. But Iowa is kind of the black hole of existence over here. Like you could just be flying by and get sucked into Iowa and be here forever.
I'm living proof of that. Yeah, that happened
right
to me.
Here, like, the only way out is if you make a really good friend. You make a really good friend, one of you guys will leave. That's every single time.
Is that why you went to Thailand for 18 months? Because you met me?
I've made a friend. I'm out of here. That's it. Like I've done my part.
That's hilarious.
But so Iowa, I'm in Iowa because I was in Iraq for 2 years and I needed somebody to watch my kid while I was there. I have family here and they stepped up for me. And then when I got out of Iraq, I thought I was going to be here 6 months. I've been here 11 years. So there you go.
Again, back to the passage of time. We have no concept of time. 6 months, 11 years, same thing.
Yeah, not a real good concept of time. No, our brains aren't designed for that. We're not designed to handle time well or big numbers.
That's funny.
Yeah. So if you talk about $1 trillion, people understand the word, but they have no concept. $1 billion. Right. No concept.
Yeah, because God, like I think everybody seems to understand, and I could be wrong because I'm very stupid, that $1 million is $100,000 10 times. But then $1 billion is like $1 million times 10, to the 100th power, and then $1 trillion is so many absurd billions. It doesn't just expand like that 100,000 to 1 million. It goes bonkers, and so we think we understand, but we don't.
We don't. Our brains aren't set up for it. We got 10 fingers, 10 toes. That's what we work with. 7 friends.
You have 10 toes?
Most of the time. Sometimes 11. I have a couple of friends.
Depending on the day. Well, yeah. I feel like it's interesting because I feel like we have a lack of knowledge of time. Or a lack of understanding of time in large numbers. We also have a lack of understanding of history. Right. And when you couple those two things, that makes this country remarkably vulnerable to a lot of weird psychological ills. Right.
Perspective as well.
Yes. Right. It robs us of a lot of perspective and a lot of just real understanding that would come from that. I think it's interesting what you say, though, when you say that people don't care, that it's manufactured. Because it's true. It's like, I used to joke about that all the time. People are like, oh, I want to save the spotted owl in Timbuktu. And I'm like, what about the spotted Negro or spotted cracker down in the Appalachian trails? Like, why aren't you trying to help people here?
Well, owls are cute. People are ugly.
But like,
that is true.
And I hear this out of white liberals. A lot of white liberals. I'll say, well, why do you not care about the poor white kids who are suffering? Not that they deserve special treatment versus anybody else, but they're trapped in the very system that you're saying Black people are trapped in because of race. Those people are trapped in because of poverty. You know what I mean?
One of the things that you have to understand about, like, when you're white guilt is a thing. It's real. It's real.
Not for me.
Yes.
Well, listen, this is what I was telling somebody. I said, but nobody can make you feel guilty. Only you can make yourself feel, only you can feel guilty. You could be completely wrong and not feel guilty. I've done things and been like,
I know some of those things you've done.
sometimes that happens. Like, what can I say? But like, you don't have to feel guilty.
Right.
But there is like a defense mechanism when race comes up. People they're too attached in a way that they become defensive instead of just hearing people out. People are bad communicators. So whenever you're discussing these things, and the narrative is bad, right? I blame a lot of it. Like, I have a big issue with Martin Luther King Day. Big issue.
So did Arizona. They almost lost the Super Bowl because of it, but continue.
Well, my issue goes like this. Okay, so Martin Luther King Day comes about in the Reagan era. I'm a young kid at that time, really young. A white kid comes up to me and he's a little bit older than me and he starts apologizing. And I'm like, I've never met this guy, never seen him in my life. And he starts apologizing to me. And I was like, why are you sorry? And he's like, well, I'm sorry for what my people did to your people. I still didn't know what he was talking about. I accepted the apology and kept playing my video game. But the thing with Martin Luther King Day was they used it as a tool to teach slavery. Like, they say you have to know your history or you're doomed to repeat it, but they don't take into context when your brain is able to really assess what kind of information you're getting. As a child, third grade, there's not the time for me to be learning about the word nigga and people getting hit with hoses and dogs. I don't understand what's going on. I just see the pictures.
Yeah.
And it was kind of used as a tool like that instead of, and then right after that, it's Black History Month, but who cares, right? Like,
I mean, I would say that I agree with you. I would posit that if everyone got taught a well-rounded history, it wouldn't matter, right? Like, if you not only learned about what happened from, whether you argue 1719 or 1619 or 1776, from there up until the 1850s, things like that, right? 1870s, right? When was the Civil War? What year was that? I don't know the exact when it started. Whatever.
Again,
But-
it's in the past, and our minds don't work that way.
But
We
like,
don't know our history.
What I mean is, like, during Reconstruction and during Jim Crow and during the Great Migration, like between 1915 and 1973, crazy amounts of Black people migrated from the South to the North, right? But if we learned all about the history and how blues came about and rock and roll and the achievements of all the Black scientists and writers and like all these things that are now coming out, right, will one day be common knowledge because the knowledge was suppressed, right? Along with like the knowledge of what white people did that was what was bad, right? White people's achievements were brought up and Black people's enslavement was taught. And then a few artistic accomplishments. But like, I feel like if I had learned all of the amazing things that people of color had done and read all of the amazing books that people of color had written and done things like that, then the slavery thing wouldn't even have been a big deal to anybody. And I think if white people learned about slavery and also learned and all the other stuff, I think they'd have a very different concept of it too. But what
that was kind of my point. That was kind of my point, right? Black History Month is in February. Martin Luther King Day is in January. So they spend all this time ramping up that this happened to a group of people who have no concept of it. Like, I was too young to understand. This is something that should have been taught like maybe 8th grade, right? But in elementary school, I don't have the tools to understand what you're saying. All I know is that I heard, like, after Martin Luther King Day, you find out about the word nigga and somebody's using it, right? Like, who wasn't using it before? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then after that, they try to bring in Black History Month but it's kind of like hard because at the same time, you know, history is written by certain people. Like, when do they update the books? Like I said, this
Right.
is stuff is going on in the 60s. It's going to take generations before things like in the books start to change. You know,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah,
who knows?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, this is you know, there's a handful of shows on recently that have had strong Black characters and strong Black casts and things like that. And
The
it's nice
Wire?
to see, you
Oh,
know.
wait.
Right, exactly. But you know,
Great
when I
show, but
watch a
again, it was
lot of
just probably
these,
because of the criminal aspect of it.
yeah,
That's why I thought it was.
but you know, like when I think about when I watch the shows that take place in the 50s and deal with lots of racism and things like that, I'm like, you know, there are other Black stories to be told. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure that I 100% agree with you, Richard, that like in that when we should be taught about things like this, because again, I think that if it was more well-rounded, it wouldn't matter, you know? Like, but I do find that like there are a lot of other Black stories to be told other than the horrific things that white people have done. Do you know
Well,
what I mean? Like there are
my
other
point was
stories
kind
that
of
can be
like,
told, you know?
for it to be focused on that. Like, that
Yes,
was
right.
the focus. They had
Yes,
it focused on anything else,
right,
anywhere else, other
right,
than this one
right.
specific thing. There
Was
Yeah,
are
it was
and
the thing
right.
the focus just that he tried to stand up for people and got killed? Is that like, you know, like, oh,
no,
they
the focus is white people had Black slaves. That's the
Right,
focus.
yeah.
And
right. Yeah,
Sorry, I thought we were talking about
and
specifically
then
Martin Luther King, but continue.
right,
Sorry.
and then after that, the police were beating up Black people, sicking dogs on them. White people hated Black people. White people are the devil, and they're attacking you. Okay. As a Black person, it's hard to like assess what's going on when this is what's being like kind of thrown at you, especially at a young age, you
Yeah.
know? And then you start to see it. You grow up and you start seeing it. And then it's even harder. And then, like I said, and then if you want to have the discussion about some of this stuff, the people who feel the most guilt, like whenever they start feeling some kind of thing, they'll fight it hard. Hey, that doesn't
mhm,
exist. That's not a thing. That doesn't happen. Sure, it does.
yeah, yeah. I find I was doing a silly exercise the other day. I think I told you, Nathan. I think. Oh, see now I feel like I shouldn't say it because I said there's a joke in it, and maybe there is. So I
Oh, yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
tell
yeah. I
people.
remember. Can I
The thing.
interrupt just one quick second before we get to? I don't
Yeah.
want to forget this. Richard said, you know, the white people are the devil, whatever. I always like to take this opportunity to point out that Barrett failed as a father because when I met his child, how old was he at the time?
No, 6.
6 years old. I was the one that had to teach his son, white man is the devil. I said, did your father teach you this thing? He goes, what? And I said, say white man is the devil. He goes, white man's the devil. I'm like, I had to teach him. So that was my
You are
contribution.
so
Yeah.
part of the problem, Nick.
I've never said
Yeah.
anything otherwise. I have never said otherwise.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Now, do you want to talk about
Um,
your exercise or you want to segue? Because you said there, I mean, I don't.
oh no, I mean, what I was saying is that like, you know, when I start actually like analyzing my thoughts, I realized 2 things, right? One, thoughts are not actions, right? They're just not. And just because you think something is fucked up doesn't mean you're a fucked up person. If you don't question the fact that you think things that are fucked up and then you start to act those things out, yeah, that's a bit of a problem, you know? But I think in general, we all have ridiculous thoughts about race, about gender, about sex, about all kinds of things.
Yes.
And I think that in this country, because we use shame as an educational tool, as a means of I don't say disciplining children, but we use it as a means of control, right? We
Right.
use shame as a tool
Right.
to punish, to manipulate, and to coerce and control people into doing what we want them to do. And I think because of that, we all secretly feel so much shame about the things that go on in our head that we set up all these minefields around them, so that anybody gets near one of these things that we feel shame about, all the grenades go off, right? And we just won't even let people near that
Right.
stuff. And
Right.
I think race is one of them, because we all ultimately think really horrific things sometimes, right? And I was watching Family Guy. We were in the hotel the other day and Family Guy was on. And my God, it was so funny. Fucking Brian, the dog, said, Drew talking about their fantasy jobs. And he goes, I fantasized I was a speechwriter for the first African American president. And it cuts away to him going, can I have him say ask? Is that something we can do? Are we just avoiding that word ask? I I was pissed myself laughing. I thought that was so funny. I was like, oh my God.
I've
There
never
are
seen
separate-
that one.
There are separate rules, right? There are different things. Yeah. Yeah. There's certain things you can't do. Imagine if Trump was black. Imagine for 1 second that Trump was black.
With that hair? No.
Right.
Stop it.
But,
If he was
but yeah,
black, he was like, yo, that's a shithole country.
I mean,
all right? All of Europe.
could he-
All of Eastern Europe is a shithole
Listen,
country. Like,
I'm gonna
we
Google that
all-
when we're done. I had never seen that clip.
So there's another scene where like they're walking across the town and they come across a car that is smashed into a telephone pole, and Peter goes, I wonder if the Chinese guy is okay. And I was just like, oh my God.
right.
I
Right.
was like, oh my God. Now, here's the thing. That shit is so funny that it's
See, there's a lot of what they
unbelievable.
say. There's a
What?
lot of truth in jest.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. But the thing is that like I don't feel like it's malicious. I feel like there's a difference between being malicious and being funny. Because some of the stuff they say is really funny. But
Well,
it's
it's
not
like
I used to have a
what's your
joke.
what's your end goal?
You know?
What's your
Yeah.
end goal?
Right,
Right.
exactly.
What
right.
are you trying to do with it?
Well, I
Yes,
used to have
and
a
that-
joke about,
and
I don't remember the joke other than I knew where I was going with it. I don't remember the setup, but the setup, or I don't remember what got me to the setup, but the setup to where I wanted to go was an Asian female driver joke. Where I said something and then I finished it with like, oh, Asian female driver, and the audience would both laugh and groan. And then my point was, hey, we stereotype as people. There is a stereotype, and
Yes.
that can be good and bad. You
Yes.
ask me if I want a doctor, and I'm saying female Asian or Indian. Like, you give me a doctor, I want an Asian because they're fucking smart as shit. Taxi driver, no. Like, that was the point of the joke, is that yeah,
Right.
you can stereotype driving, but then you can stereotype the other way and say full
Well,
on honky
well,
doctors don't appeal
but
to me.
here's something funny. That's actually when we talk about caste, that's actually almost exactly the kind of thought process, right?
Right.
We have an unconscious belief that Asians are bad drivers. We really do believe that,
Yeah.
whether or not it's true or
And that
not,
they're good
we really
doctors,
do
though. We
that.
believe that they're bad
And
drivers,
that
good
they're
doctors.
right? We believe that they're good at these things, and we accept that as reasonable, right? But we also have a lot of negative beliefs that we tend to suppress, right? But like it does affect the way you treat people, right?
Yes.
If you believe that certain people are good at one thing or better designed for one job, it's like, who do you dole those jobs out to?
Well, it's
and they all
Jimmy the
get
Greek
kind of-
saying that the
Right.
Negro makes a better athlete, something like
Right.
that. That was his
Well,
line.
his argument was that we were bred for that.
Yeah,
and he's
you're
not
good
wrong.
stock.
That's the problem. He's not wrong because they bred the biggest and strongest people for as long as they could.
I mean, if
Did
you
Aren't
look at
you
all
like
of
5'4"
America at this
though?
point, we're kind of bred for that, right? Like they were
Right.
engineering through the food to
Right.
make us big,
Yeah.
but it just
And
went
strong.
the
Right.
wrong way.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
He's getting fat
But-
now.
But
We're all getting fat. We're all old. All three of us.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also the quarantine 15. You know what I mean? You sit around doing fuck all with your day. You know what I mean? And working from home and being able to put on a dress, do your Dave Letterman. We put on a dress shirt and then stay in your boxer shorts underneath with your flip flops on when you sit at the desk.
Hey, I'm
You know
wearing
what I mean?
shorts.
It's like,
I have full on shorts
right.
on.
But you know,
And
what
I hope
mean?
you have
It's
something on
like,
because you're outside. You're going to get arrested if you're swinging.
I
swinging
mean, I'm
dick.
on a porch. There's all kinds of like shrubbery around me. I'm good.
Ah,
But
shrubbery?
but
I'm not even
you know,
sure what
I
Monty
think
Python reference that is. It's Holy Grail. I require
I can't.
a
Yeah.
shrubbery.
Yeah.
It must be a nice shrubbery. Yeah. All right.
But you know, like I think it's really a shame, honestly, because I really think that comedy. I think that like I know that like when we talk about art and music and stuff, different groups of artists generally lead are the spearhead for different movements, right? I would argue that the 60s was really music, did a lot, right? Not in terms of like, did it actually do anything? I don't know, right? But music was the
Well,
art
it
of
got
the
the masses
day, right?
riled up, or
Well,
the
yeah,
young
I mean,
people.
Right,
it moves things forward.
Mhm.
It's
right,
incremental
yeah,
changes, but you're gonna need generations to pull it off.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But I think that comedy is that for this generation. I don't think it's music. I think it's comedy. I think music. I'm not saying that there are not musicians out there doing it. I think
Oh,
music
I was
has
just
been
going to say, are you saying
commodified in
that
terms of
WAP is
such
not
a.
furthering the cause of racial equality?
I mean, who
I
doesn't
think
love a
that.
little WAP? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, valid point. I
Hey.
think that. Listen,
To
you
go
know,
to your
Margot
point of
Price.
generational change that Richard just said, I think, because I just made the joke that we're all old. But we can all remember being young. And when you're young, I think you're naturally frustrated because you see the way the world is and how it should be. And you get angry. You're like, wait a second, why is this is unfair? Whatever the inequality is, or the and you get angry. When you get older, you understand that change is incremental. And you sort of settle in and go, okay, let's just keep moving in the right direction. But as you get old, you have youth replace you, and they're angry because it's not moving fast enough, just like you used to think it didn't move fast enough. And maybe it doesn't move fast enough. Maybe you just get old and accept that, okay, life is incremental, change is incremental. Let's just keep
Yeah,
moving in the correct direction.
yeah.
And
You pick your battles.
yeah.
And I think that, and I mean,
Well,
to be fair, I think that's happening. You know, like I looked at like because all these movements, like, you know, Me Too movement, gay rights movement, all of these movements piggyback off of the Black struggle, right? So I see things happen so fast now. Like it took a very long time. We're still fighting the fight as Black people, you know what I'm saying? But like the LGBTQ got it popping, bam. You know what I'm saying? When it came to gay rights, when it came to like all these other movements, I think the thing that really helps that is that the fact that it's not based on color.
Well, like, let
Because
me interrupt. I apologize. I think we've talked about this before, and I know I've heard this. I think the difference is what they've tried to explain the study is the LGBT, the gay, everyone suddenly has, not suddenly, but everybody has a gay family member. Like, oh shit,
right,
my uncle's gay.
right, right,
Everybody has a mom or a daughter or sister like that. Not everybody has a Black family member. So that's
right.
why suddenly when it hits, like you say, it goes boom, like, and where your struggle is different because it's like,
Right.
he doesn't look like me. There's a
But
difference.
I will say this though, like
Mhm.
when police are starting to get arrested and like, you know, go to trial and, you know, like stuff, I personally never thought things like it's so crazy. I was like probably 9 years old watching Rodney King.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the first time that I had seen something in color.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That happened, that I witnessed, right? And then from that point, and I think that was like 90 something, 96, 95, something like that, all the way till
I
like
thought it was earlier,
2020.
but
Yeah, like till 2020, that was the first time I started seeing like cops actually go to jail. And it was quick too. Like it happened and he went, you know, like it was fast. And I was like, wow, you know, things are changing. I was excited about that.
Fast, yes, but again, to reiterate my point, I agree that it was fast. It took a year, but I remember seeing in the, why isn't he in jail already? Why do we have to have a trial? Like, there were people still pushing for faster, and I'm like that. So I agree with you, as fast, and hopefully things are speeding up, and hopefully they're heading in the right direction. So
they definitely are. It's just like I said, like, you know, for Black people, like, we have been fighting this fight for so long. Like I said, it's in the soil since day one. But to be fair, it was like that for everybody to some degree, because America is high school. It's all like separated. Like when people came to America, they weren't like, hey, we're all American. No, it was the Italians were with the Italians, the English were with the English, the Irish were with the Irish. Everybody was separated. The thing that got lost is kind of the history. Like, they were all still white. Now, the Black people who came over were from all kinds of different countries, but because all of that history was erased, they were just Black.
yeah,
Like, nobody cared. So, and I will say this, to add to another point that I was trying to make. In America, it's us versus them. That is the thing to take your mind off of the corporation part of America and away from Americans. We have these little fights of us versus them, and meanwhile, the machine is still going. The machine is still going. Things are still getting done.
now when you say
Like,
us versus them, can you clarify that? Are you talking like Iraq, Afghanistan, little conflicts, like, hey, band, like America first, or
America is us versus them on everything, and the only time we unite is in war. The only time we unite is in a fight. So if you have somebody to fight, then you'll get somebody on your side.
Yeah,
It's just like that. That's the part of America that's ingrained. And the beauty, like the genius of Trump, was he knew how to use that. Anytime something would come up, he would always make this little tit for tat type of fight to have people arguing. You see that right now in Iowa, like, we're not going to mask mandate. Now people are, fighting with each other about whether their kids can have masks or not have masks or whatever. But meanwhile, our legislator is flying on private jets right now. Like, like people are talking about, I don't want my tax dollars going out to these people. I said, hey, man, if your tax dollars were going to go anywhere, who would you rather have it? People complain all the time that it's going to help all these other countries, and over here, we're sending all this aid over there. So what's the problem with you guys helping Americans if you want to give them a little bit of money to help them through the pandemic? No. Okay. All right. Okay. That's a distinctly American type of viewpoint.
yeah. Get back to work for the corporation. Canada says, all right, go home. We're going to give you $1,000 a month. America says, come on, get back to work, get back to work, get back to work.
Get back to work. And look, get back to work. And now the little fight starts. Well, what about my kids? Where are my kids going to go? They don't work on the problem of the kids, right? I saw this coming from the end of last year. And I feel like a lot of people felt like, the next school year was going to be like this. Did they take time to plan? No. They just waited till the day before. Actually, the day before school ended, what they do here, they said no more masks. Why wait? Why not just let them finish the school year? No, just to start something, just to have that buzz of people fighting amongst each other so that the machine can keep churning.
Yeah. God damn, my friend.
That's why I left.
Well, I'm glad you're backing on this to explain it to us, because just fascinating. Because you, Barrett, you might not know this. Is I don't know how many months ago you left a comment on one of our YouTube things, and I immediately responded to you like, "Hey, come on and talk to us." And I guess being busy in another country, you never responded. But I'm so happy that
relaxing.
You are back, yeah. And And we need to hang out this week, is what I told you earlier. So
Yeah.
let's get together before you take off for another country. All right, we should start wrapping it up. Anybody have anything they want to
Yeah.
say in closing, or should we start whoring?
Me personally, I just want to say to everybody who ever watches this, all my friends, family, and loved ones who I will be sending this to, thank you for watching, man. I really appreciate it, like helping us out. And remember, like, it's all love, you know, like that's the important thing for me, I think, is to try to be more inclusive and forget about the us versus them. Just come out with plans to bring people together. I think that's a way to move us forward as a country and as a people. That's all I have.
Thank you. That's more than I ever offer. So parting thoughts, Mr. Barrett Antar Goodwin?
Yeah. I want to say in closing something that Richard talked about how with the Black people from all different countries being considered Black, or Africans from different countries or whatever being considered Black, and white people being considered white, the Irish, the Italian, things like that. I think that's interesting. I think that what really, for me, what happened is our history was stolen, and there's Italians and Irish and people like that, theirs was sold. They traded it for whiteness, because when they came here, they weren't white immediately. Like Italians didn't become white until like the late 1800s.
You're right.
And Irish didn't become white until a little bit before then. But when they did, they literally sold off who they were kind of to become white. To some degree, they traded it to their white. Well, I mean, I would argue now, if you look, and I don't say this in any offensive way, like I really don't, but like
you don't have to. People will still take it however they want to.
But I mean, like I feel like most people, their nationality has been reduced to a couple of foods, a couple of restaurants that serve that kind of food, a couple of parades, maybe a holiday or two, some kind of vice, you know. Like everybody gets it, but that's the treatment, right? Like you get the treatment when you become an American. You become a Black person or a white person, a Black or a white, right? A this or a that. And each one of those comes with a certain, you like gifts. Oh, you get St. Patrick's Day, you get Martin Luther King Day, you have an Italian Day parade, you have a Jamaican Day festival. It's like, okay, right. But like at the end of the day, the culture starts to, well, I think in any kind of integration, there's a trade, right? That will happen. So I would say, and I'm saying all this in closing, see, watch this. I'm not going to go on a tangent. When you talk about being more inclusive, how that's your goal, to become more inclusive, I like that idea a lot. And I think that maybe what that means for me is to start to reclaim or expand what it means to be Black for me as a person, right? To start to have my own definition of that, but also really encourage other people to do the same, right? Like maybe let's not be so defined by these rules of these identities of slave and slaveholder, right? Let's allow for all kinds of things to be inclusive for all of us. And because all of us had our shit stolen, but not stolen, but by people who were not us, right? We inherited our parents and our forefathers and mothers' legacies, right? So whether they sold off the history or had it stolen or beaten, the end result is we don't have it. Do you know what I mean? Like, right? And whether you're a white person or a Black person, right? Like if I say, what are you? Most white people go, I'm a mutt. That's what they say. I'm a mutt. My mother's from here, right? But right, and how much of your German culture has existed in your life?
None, because German culture is pretty like sauerkraut. I don't know.
Right, but
well,
even if you don't like it, the fact that you don't know it, you don't know the language. Do you know what I mean? Like all of us have traded that away for the privilege of being American. Right. And I feel like maybe if we can all accept each other as Americans, because we all gave up something to become this. right? Whether it was taken or sold or bought or ripped away is relevant, but the end result is that none of us have it. And what we do have is this American thing. And if we can somehow get rid of the idea that there are Black Americans and white Americans and Chinese Americans and Italian and Irish and this, and we could really just firmly say that's just a load of bullshit, because most Irish people I know fuck all about Ireland, right? And so, right, so maybe we just say we're Americans. Not that we give up our histories and our cultures and our legacies, but maybe we just accept being American and really embrace that and see what happens.
Sounds like you're running for a Republican politician place. America first.
I know.
America first.
But no, but I mean, like, what if it was like for us, by us, like America by Americans? Like, what if we did it like that? Like, when Richard's talking about other places that are taking care of their citizens, what if America and Americans became the same thing? Like, what if we could own stock in the corporation?
Right.
You know what I mean? What if we all actually had stock in the corporation? It doesn't change the fact that we have problems that need to get sorted out, but it changes the way we approach solving those problems. Because problems.
It means we want the problems to be solved. It means instead of just going to work and saying, "Oh, fuck it, that's someone else's problem," it becomes our problem.
Right. But solving problems with my coworker is different than solving problems with my enemy. This is when we go back to remember the conversation we had about being irredeemable, right? When we were talking about that many, many podcasts ago. It's like, if we get rid of the idea that we're irredeemable and we all look at each other as teammates, we really can solve this together. So we really can solve it. It won't be easy, but we could actually do it. We're smart enough. We have enough smart people to solve these problems. We just, like you said, the corporation runs us. Anyway,
hopefully COVID will kill off the dumb ones among us, and
oh man,
and the rest of us can solve it.
It's working on it.
All right.
Seriously.
Well, my closing thought will be this, because it was mentioned twice, once by me on accident, and I did not have this memory until Barrett, you just remembered it. I am so dumb. I am so dumb that when I lived in Los Angeles, I shopped at the Marshall's, TJ Maxx, whatever the overrun store is, where everything is, 25% what the regular retail price is, because they have overruns or a missing thread. And I needed a shirt for the gym, and I go in and I found one that was cheap and it fit, and I started wearing it. And because I'm dumb, I didn't know shit. I saw a shirt, great, buy it. And it was only until one day a black guy said, "Hey, your shirt, yeah? Do you know what FUBU means?" I'm like, "No." And I was told what my FUBU shirt meant. And I'm like, all right, well, there you go. I was just
that's cool though. We appreciate them white dollars. No worries.
He wasn't angry. He was just asking. He's just like, there was no anger. Cool. There was just like dumbass cracker. All right. Richard.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Sir.
You have ventures sometime. This is the point where we close up and we whore ourselves. You were an entrepreneur. Is there anything we can, like a website, a business? You were starting something. Textiles.
Correct. However, not ready yet to promote that. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
No, fair enough. Well, then we'll just go with antargoodwin.com. We are approaching September pretty quickly, so singles for the new album will be coming out, and then the album's coming out in October. So you can find all that. He's the musical director for the Katie Henry Band, so katiehenrymusic.com. Look up both of those things, antargoodwin.com and katiehenrymusic.com. I can be found at nathantimmel.com, and when you go there, you're going to find, I don't think my new comedy album's up, Skinny Fat, but the book is still being pushed because I'm not giving up on that. We Are 100. So go to nathantimmel.com and check out all that. Richard, my God, thanks so much for hanging out with us. I told you I'm busy tomorrow, but I'm gonna call you. We're gonna hang out Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Some point this week, you and I are gonna see each other in person and hug it out. So
awesome. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you,
Anton. Love you guys. Be well.
Yeah, man, it's great.
All right.
See ya.